All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Feel free to do whatever is helpful for you. If you want to take notes, you're welcome to, but you certainly don't have to. This will be recorded and available to you later. And so today we're going to be talking about wellness, adjustment, and transition for coming to college. My name is Danielle Watkins, and I'm one of the clinicians at CAPS.
Hi, my name is Amy Coonerty Femiano, and I'm another one of the clinicians at CAPS. And for those of you that don't know, CAPS stands for
Oh,
Counseling and Psychological Services. We're basically the counseling center on campus. And thank you for joining us tonight from locally and very far away.
all right. Oh, let me make sure it's working. Uh-oh. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
So we're going to be talking about transitioning to a new school, a new city for some of you, a new country for some, what that transition can look like, and tips to manage it, things you can do for yourself that can be beneficial in your wellness. And so when we think about coming to college, you might have a lot of questions, you might have feelings, you might have lots of things going on for you. Some of the most common questions that come up for people who are coming to undergrad for the first time are questions like, will I do well in classes? Will I be homesick? Will I be safe? Will I find a job? Will I find ways to get involved? Will I make friends? Comes up a lot. Will I change my major and how many times? And often, especially for first and second year, um, will I get along with my roommate? And so I'm wondering in regards to the participants who are here, you're welcome at any point to put any questions or anything you have in the chat. We will check those as we go. But feel free if you have any of these questions to give a wave or to put it in the chat as we go. They're really common that we hear.
Or if you have other ones too, feel
Yeah.
free to add.
Yeah. Okay. So when we think about adapting to newness, this is a major adjustment. It can be hard to see into the future. You might not know what to expect. You might, again, like I mentioned, have lots of questions, and that uncertainty can often cause anxiety because everything is pretty unfamiliar. Even if you're from the area, this might be the first time you're living away from home, or just adjusting to being in a different kind of rigorous academic setting. Everything can feel new and exciting, but also can feel maybe stressful and anxiety provoking. So, just some things to start thinking about. As you're adapting to this change, your job as an individual is to get an education and to adapt to independent community living. And so you're starting to really seek out and find your own identity in a large, diverse community. You're looking to experience growth and challenge yourself. So things like challenges, both intellectually, emotionally, and socially, might come up. um, College may or may not feel like a surrogate home to you. Again, there's this is a place for you to have all these new experiences, and so sometimes there will be struggles with that. You won't be able to protect yourself from all failure and all disappointment. I know a lot of students will try very hard to make sure they don't fail anything, but sometimes that's going to happen, and that's okay. Um, and so thinking about, we're going to talk more about different skills to bring with you to college, but just starting to think about developing resilience is really an important part of student success for you all. And having really realistic expectations can be really helpful too. I don't know if you all have ended up hearing this at some point on social media or from friends or from relatives, but this is just one chapter of your life. And often people can hear like this is the best 4 years of your life. And for some people, it may be, but for some people, it's not. And that's totally okay. I like to think about it as we have lots of years after college. And if college is only the best years of your life, that's kind of, I feel like that's a little bit sad and for me because you have so much more living to do. And so I hope there are other years that are exciting, and that you are able to make the best of your college experience and make it what you want it to be. Um, and so as we're thinking about adjustments, there's lots of different phases to adjustment. And I really like this graph. There's lots of ups and downs. Kind of at the beginning, usually there's some, anticipatory anxiety, like what are things going to look like? Things are new and exciting, but as school starts and expectations grow, the workload can be heavier and stress is increased. And so there can be a drop in your like emotions and what's going on for you and some challenges. And as you get more experience, you can become more comfortable. And it can be really helpful to also acknowledge, what are you leaving behind? What are you missing out on potentially? And to talk about it with people you care about, talk about it with your support system that can help us process those things. Excuse me. And so when we think about adjusting, kind of thinking about expectations, for most people, it will take time to adjust. What that timeline looks like varies for every person. For some adjustments, certain adjustments will be easier. For some, it will be harder. Like, for example, maybe somebody from coming from a completely different state, it might be a little bit harder to adjust to Seattle culture. Things that maybe, like even going to the grocery store sometimes can be different when you're from different areas. And so it can take repeated experiences to actually end up figuring things out. And so even like the tiny unfamiliar things can be difficult. Um, excuse me. And so thinking about, sorry, I need a drink. Okay. So thinking about, you might end up having a lot of different feelings, and that's totally normal and okay. You might be experiencing anxiety. You might wonder, like, what am I doing here? Did I make the right choice in the school that I'm attending? You might be experiencing sadness, loneliness. Some homesickness comes up quite frequently for people, feelings of stress, feelings of sadness. And so, kind of thinking about what is going on for you currently, checking in with yourself, and thinking about how to manage with skills you already have. So things that you might already do to take care of yourself, things that have been helpful for you in managing stress when you were in high school or just growing up. So just kind of starting to think about that as you go now. And so in the quarter system, you may or may not be familiar with a quarter system yet, but it can be pretty fast paced. And so there are some typical adjustments that students end up reporting for fall quarter in specific. So things like you're getting to test newfound freedom that you may not have had experiences for before. You're setting your own schedule. You're having to time manage in ways that you might not have had to previously. You might have to manage finances that you might not have had to previously. Adjusting to different ways of socializing with people. There's a lot of different diversity and diverse set of people that you're going to be interacting with, making friends, feeling like wondering if you fit in. Anxiety just again around the newness, things like meeting roommates, professors, classes, thinking about things like feeling homesickness and missing maybe people that, even if you just are, like 20 miles from Seattle and you have family in the area, there's still a big difference from moving away from home and living on your own for the first time. So just some of the things that come up quite frequently for fall quarter to think about as you are adjusting it coming for fall. And then thinking about, and I don't know if any of you have heard this term before of emerging adulthood, but this is a phase of development that you all are in now. And so this is a period between adolescence and adulthood, between 18 and 25 years old, where emerging adults often don't see themselves as adolescents anymore, but they also don't see themselves as adults either. So it can be kind of a very exciting, but also conflictual and exploratory phase in your life. And so really you're having to adopt adult roles, you're having to adopt adult responsibilities, but you might not totally know what those look like yet. So things that come up in emerging adulthood are identity exploration, so figuring out who you are and your beliefs. You might end up questioning some of your worldviews, being exposed to different people, to different cultures, to different things in general might have you questioning some of your own worldviews. And also education, things like you're learning new things, and being exposed to new things. You're going to experience differences in love and relationships, in friendships, and romantic relationships, if that's something you're interested in. Um, Education and work is going to shift for you. And then there's a lot of time for new opportunities. And sometimes that can actually feel a little bit overwhelming, because there might be so many opportunities. You might not know how to balance your time yet effectively, or even how to navigate what to choose. And so just some things to think about in this phase of development that you're in.
So now I'm going to talk about some specifics around some different types of transition. So academic transition, I think, is the most obvious because you're moving maybe from high school or from community college to the four-year university, right? And so one of the things that can be different as you see all the group projects. So SU is known for doing projects in a group, right? So you might have done a lot of individual work in high school, and now is a time to work with your peers and get together and do different projects. And some people aren't used to that. And so group projects can be a great way to meet new friends, build new relationships, learn how to work together. It can be a great way to talk to your fellow classmates about what are your strengths and what do you bring to this group? How can we work together? And so when you dive into those group projects, it can be really important to have a timeline because you're all working together. And so who's going to do what, when? And this may be a new skill for you, right? Transitioning into working with a group and you're all responsible for the same project. And how can you navigate and utilize all the different strengths that you all bring to that? The dog with the glasses is representing our professors. So you will have relationships with professors. Often with professors, you might have to take that initiative, right? To get to know them and kind of build an intentional relationship, because depending on, so many people don't know what they want to major in, right? So it can be helpful to talk to your professors in their office hours, talk to them a little bit about how they got to where they are, learn more about your career. It can be a great way to explore new possibilities. And these positive relationships with professors can be so important to your success in college and your professional identity, because often these are people that you might ask for a reference once you graduate, as you move on to a job, right? So it can be really important to establish those relationships. And then you might see this little cat who's almost falling off, trying to get I think he's trying to get a little hamster. So anyway, classes are harder, right? So the academics can be more demanding, more fast paced, more challenging. I think one of the challenges coming from high school is that in high school, you have class every day, you have homework every day, and you're in a structure every day. So you may come to college and you may have classes 2 days a week. So on the one hand, that's awesome. You have so much free time. Yay, what are you going to do, right? And then you forget that you actually have to do schoolwork during that time, right? So to find out kind of how many hours are kind of required for your classes and realize that you're going to have to structure that on your own, which can be really new for people, because normally high school, you don't get as much academic, you have more structure. And so this is going to be less structure. So how are you going to navigate when to study for what class? So that's part of the academic side of the house transition. And now we'll move to community and personal transition. So we have a little dog there living on their own, right? You actually won't, you'll probably be living with a roommate, but this is, you're making your new home with your roommate. So you might be living with a roommate, you might be living with 2 roommates, but it's a different living environment to live on campus, and how to navigate that new relationship of living in a community. So you're living on a residence hall with lots of different people, and that may be very new from you if you come from a home with not a lot of family members in it. So you're living in a new community. And so often when you first move in with that roommate, it's very exciting. And there might be a nice honeymoon period until you realize that they always leave the window open, right? And you want the window closed. So just learning how to communicate with your roommate about these types of things so you can continue to live together harmoniously throughout the whole school year. For some of you, maybe you're going to move into an apartment and you have to pay your own rent and manage your own lease and do all of that, right? And that can be very challenging, new skill. So that's kind of part of the living on your own transition and kind of living in community. And we have a very pensive looking ape making his own decisions. So when you come to college, you actually will have a lot of choices now that you get to make on your own. You can choose when you want to go to bed. What do I want to eat for dinner? What time do I want to eat? When am I going to exercise? So many choices. Whereas in high school, it might have been a little bit more structured. Maybe you came home, dinner was at a certain time. You only had a certain amount of time to eat lunch in high school. Maybe you had gym class, right? And so a lot of these decisions that you get to make on your own is very exciting. And these are a lot of wellness decisions about how am I going to find balance and where am I going to choose to spend my time. We'll talk a little bit more about wellness soon. But they're also decision about kind of your friends and like putting effort into new friendships. I want to decide to put effort into my classes. I want to decide to join a new club, right? And so making all these decisions about where you want to get involved. And just learning how to make decisions that are good for you, that fit well for you and that are right for you personally. And then consider how these decisions that you're making impact your wellness, your physical wellness, your mental wellness, your emotional wellness, your professional wellness, your social wellness, and all of that. And then finding community can be very different for you, especially if you've been in the same school for a while, or if you've been in 4 years of straight high school, right? So coming to a new environment, not just on campus, but just in Seattle. A lot of you are local, but there is someone here from Guam. So learning about Seattle. And so SU is a very diverse place and it makes it wonderful here. And it allows you to kind of establish your own community. So really take advantage of that and the resources and all the events on campus. Take advantage of living in Seattle. Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you. Got it. Well, once again, welcome from very far away. So getting used to Seattle and adjusting to the new city, and just taking advantage of being in the city, right? So even if some of you are coming from different places in Washington, kind of taking advantage of the city, and finding a community, whether that be, at SU, in your classes and clubs, in the dorms, wherever that may be. Which leads sort of to the next transition, is social. Right. So lots of differences, right? Once again, between high school and college, you're making new friends. And it's really important for you to make new friends here on campus and build that community. That can really help with your kind of sense of belonging here. So the distance from home, whether it be 20 minutes or a plane ride, may make it harder to see friends from home, or you might just see your family less than you're used to, right? So that might be an adjustment of how do I, I'm making new friends, but I want to stay in touch with my old friends. How do you kind of keep those connections and make new friends at the same time and balance the social life with academics? And some relationships from home may grow apart or may grow stronger with distance, not sure. And just kind of deciding how you want to manage all of these new opportunities for different friendships and relationships. Varied schedules. The pug is contemplating what to do on Friday night, right? So you have different schedules, right? So as I was saying, you might just have class a couple days a week, and then it's up to you to do the rest. Maybe you're going to have an internship, maybe you're going to have a job, how to kind of manage all of those things as opposed to the structured schedule of high school. And then professionalism. That is a cat at the White House. Not sure if you can see that, but being very professional. So you need to manage kind of different, I don't know, maybe you're gonna have a LinkedIn profile, might need to manage that, right? Start learning to navigate different things around if you have a job, academics, decide what's kind of important for you. Some of you may come in with an idea of what you want to major in. Some of you may not. Either way, no problem. But that idea of kind of building that professionalism and starting to develop that part of your identity is kind of part of this transition to college. Yeah.
Okay. And so we're talking about a lot of different kinds of transition, and some things that may be helpful as you arrive on campus to be successful during your college experience is to start thinking about what skills you have, maybe looking at these particular skills and thinking about where you already fall in those. And over time, of course, as you gain experience and you gain knowledge, you will build on these skills. But some that we have found to be helpful to be successful in college are things like being able to advocate for yourself. It's different than maybe parents advocating for you when you were in high school. And so now figuring out how you do that for yourself. Things like we mentioned so far, like varied schedules, time management. How are you going to split up your time? What's important to you? What do you want to spend your time doing? and thinking about like different responsibilities that you have that maybe you had help with siblings or with your parents or your guardians, whoever those people may have been, your teachers, and now being on your own. And it's not that you can't have supports, but it's different now. And you're going to maybe have to seek them out a little bit in a different way than you might have previously. um, Figuring out how to tolerate ambiguity and discomfort, especially around newness and uncertainty. There's a lot of this, especially as you go through the process of figuring out what you want to do. And that can be a really daunting task. And even once you figure out what you want to do, you might have questions about, well, what will that look like? Or is it really what I want to do? And so there's a lot of unknowns that happen in this developmental period that you're going through. And so figuring out how to sit with that discomfort can be really helpful. Also, figuring out how to be alone. Sometimes that can be one of the really challenging parts about being in college, that you're surrounded by people, but oftentimes you might feel lonely, and or you might be spending more time than you're used to alone. And that might kind of lead you into what skills can you use to make connections. And then also, how do you navigate being alone? Is that okay? What are some of the beliefs you have about being alone? Um, and then learning things from those who are different from you, being open, being curious. Those skills can be really helpful as you encounter a lot of different people and a lot of different belief systems, a lot of different, maybe cultural backgrounds, diverse backgrounds of just people growing up too differently than you. And then reacting to these challenges that you're going to face with resiliency. There will be a lot of those ups and downs that we mentioned, and a lot of those unknowns. And so, really cultivating the skills that you might already have, and continuing to grow them as you go through your college experience. And so, things that may be happening for you as you are going through this process are transitioning, like we mentioned, to a change in your own responsibility. So things like navigating how to feed yourself, how to go to classes, how to navigate things like group projects. There's just a lot of different responsibilities when you're all on your own, and there might not be somebody constantly checking in on you. um, Establishing your identity, as we mentioned, as that emerging adult. Who are you? What are your beliefs? What's important to you? Adjusting to a new family dynamic, routine, and involvement. Your family is going to continue living their lives. And you're going to be part of that, but in a different sort of way than you're used to. So, kind of just adjusting to that newness. Some people I've talked to, their parents immediately turned their room into a gym when they left for college, and others kind of turned it into a shrine. There might be like a big variety of things that happen in your family system. And that could be uh, influencing, like, how do you manage your own emotions? You might, again, like I mentioned, experience a variety of different emotions that are coming up for you. And even with all the newness and all the transitions other people are going to be going through too, you might end up feeling a little bit left out, or a lot left out. And so, again, expecting like there will be good times, there will be challenging times, and those ups and downs, like knowing, again, like the skills we just talked about can be really helpful to manage those, um, and to have realistic expectations for yourself and for other people. And so, with that, like feeling of left out, you may be familiar with this term, fear of missing out. um, FOMO is this feeling and or perception that others are having more fun, living better lives, or experiencing better things than we are. And it can often lead to a really deep sense of envy, um, or discomfort, and it can negatively impact how we view ourselves and our own self-esteem. And so, FOMO isn't just the sense that there might be better things that you could be doing in this moment, but this feeling that like you're fundamentally missing out on important things that other people are experiencing in this moment. And so, while you're at school, you might be afraid of missing out at home. Um, or you might be missing out on, let's say your friends chose to go to different colleges than you, what's going on at their college. And so, especially if you're following social media, this um, feeling of missing out, this fear of missing out, can be even more prominent when we are on social media a lot. And so there's different ways you can deal with this fear, one, recognizing that it's normal to go through, reducing social media usage, being mindful or intentional with how you use social media, changing your focus. So focusing on what you have, what you're excited about, what you feel passionate about, versus what you're missing out on or what you feel like you're lacking. And so basically, it's kind of this idea of practicing some mindfulness that Amy's going to talk a little bit more about, but living in the present moment, letting go of what's going on, maybe back at home or what your friends are doing, and really enjoy your time and be intentional about what you want to do with it at college. And so, and also in addition to that, practicing gratitude, basically, like what I mentioned, like, what have you got going for you? What are you excited about? What do you feel passionate about? What are some of the things you enjoy? And sometimes even thinking about, like, in Seattle, like, is there a particular park? Is there a particular restaurant? Is there a particular activity that you really enjoy engaging in, and kind of putting some of your energy in that versus focusing on what you feel like you are missing out on.
So we talked a lot about just coming to college, transition, things you might be experiencing. And so now we're going to kind of move towards, if you do experience stress with the transition, what do you do, right? So how do you know you're feeling stressed? So feel free to put in the chat. How do you know you're feeling stressed? What are some signs for you? I'm assuming you've experienced stress at some point so far. So just feel free to put in the chat. How do you know, right? I know I start fidgeting a lot faster. Yes, I also fidget when I'm feeling stressed. Yep, that is also one for me. It's a great one. I like that one. Yeah. So, what are some other things people might notice as signs of stress? And I think Danielle, you can just put some up there. So
Yeah.
here are some that we thought of. So sometimes when we're stressed, our appetite changes, right? So we may not notice that we're hungry, or we may be eating more. Stress can also come up in sleep. It's harder to fall asleep, harder to stay asleep. Getting sick frequently can be a sign of stress, or just feeling tired. Like even if you've gotten enough sleep, you feel tired. Having a hard time focusing, missing classes or assignments can be a sign of stress, or being less social. So if you notice you came to college the first month, you were like out all the time, spending time with friends, and then all of a sudden you're isolating, could be a sign of stress. Or if you're just feeling more irritable, or you're not feeling as motivated, these can all be signs of stress. And the reason we're talking about them now is because they're just something to keep an eye on. Because if you want to cope with stress, it's important to know that you are stressed, right? So just think about, what are my signs of stress? How do I notice? And then pay attention to those when you come here, because that can be really important. And then what helps you cope with stress? So you have all been stressed before. So you feel free to put in the chat, what are some things that might help you, that have helped you cope with stress already, that are good, you'd recommend? Music. Yes, agreed. I also use that one. I find listening to loud, happy music. Oh, videos, also a great one. Yep. Going on a walk, I do that. Yep. Music, videos, walk, talking to my parents or close friends. Yes. Oh, these are all great. Music, videos, going on a walk, talking to my parents or close friends. These are actually all things I do to cope with stress. So they're very common. These are great. Thank you. And so I think the next slide has some ways to do that. Or not. Reading. Reading's another great one. So you've brought some of these up already. So one way to cope with stress is moving your body. So you brought up walking. Yes, absolutely. Routines can be really important. So if establishing a new routine in college can kind of help. Like if you get up at the same time every day, like let's say you listen to music every morning at home. Okay, great. Do the same thing in college, right? Like how can you kind of incorporate that into your routine? Having a consistent sleep schedule is really important. We talk to college students about this all the time. It's challenging. You have roommates. It's not going to be easy, but sleep is very important. And so something you might just want to pay extra attention to when you're stressed. And then someone brought up talking to their parents or friends when they're stressed. Yes, social supports, using your social supports. When you first come to school, if you're feeling stressed and you haven't made a lot of friends yet, use those social supports back home. And then as you're here for a while and you meet people, that can be part of it. And then self-care, I'm assuming reading and music might be, and going on a walk might be all self-care things for the people who put those, right? So what are the things that you do for self-care? This is very individual. For me, Going for a walk is a big one, right? And then it's important to remember to eat. So you're going to, if you live in the res halls, you're on the meal program, it's up to you to eat. So don't forget to do it. And don't forget to come to the dining hall, and make sure you eat with some sort of regularity, because that can often help cope with stress, especially if your hours are changing or you have to study, making sure you stay fueled for your body. So these are just some basic ones that I think people forget about. And then what's helped you get through transitions before? This is not the first transition you've been through. I'm sure you've been through a different one. So what's helped you in the past? Feel free to put it in the chat. Since you've all experienced some transitions before, if you think about what helped you back then, that might help you now. Making new friends, that is a great one. And college is a great place to do that, right? So often in transitions, kind of putting yourself out there socially, meeting new people, that can be really helpful. What else has helped people get through transitions? All those other things you said might also be helpful around self-care and making it through those new transitions. But the idea here is just to draw on your strengths and know that you have done this before. And this is not your first time going through a transition. You might not have come to college before, but you've been through a transition before, and being able to fall back on those things that have been helpful. So here are some things to help cope with transition. Balance, I think Danielle and I have both already talked about this, but maintaining that balance. Now you have academics, social, job, new clubs you're joining, you want to exercise, whatever that is, but figuring out how to kind of maintain that kind of balance. Patience can be very important when you're coping with transition. Just to remind yourself that you just made a major transition. You just moved away from home and you just came to college, and be patient and kind to yourself. Dealing with stress when it arises, as opposed to waiting. Some people may get irritated about something and just be like, oh, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. And they don't deal with it. So it can be helpful to kind of keep on top of that, which is why I was talking about those signs of stress. So if you notice a sign of stress, like, I have not gotten a good night's sleep in 2 days, that's a good time to go get a good night's sleep. Remember what your personal goals are, right? So why are you here? Why are you coming to college? What are you excited about? A sense of humor can be very helpful. I don't know, when we're talking about when someone put up videos for self-care, funny videos can be really helpful. Looking at pictures of baby animals can be very helpful, which is why we've put them throughout this presentation, right? So looking, and there's actually data on actually, you know, just make that, there's like actually research on looking at pictures of animals and things that make you laugh can actually help reduce your level of stress. So funny pictures, having your friends share funny pictures with them on a group chat or something like that. And please ask for help, right? So please reach out to your new friends that you're making in college, your RA in your res hall, your friends from back home, classmates, professors, other people that you're meeting. Come to CAPS, ask for help, right? So don't be shy about that. It's always great to rely on your support system. And then coping through connection is a big one. As I said before, making new friends at school can help provide that sense of belonging, to be at SU, and that can really help you feel connected. It affects how we feel, it affects how we cope, right? You said that talking to friends and family is helpful when we're stressed, right? So that helps us cope. And just know that it's okay not to feel normal for a while, right? And to know that that's okay. And just try to maintain whatever connections are feeling good for you at that time. Whether those be new ones, old ones, or whatever it is, but know that social connection is very important when it comes to coping with stress and transition. And then, this is our 50 ways to take a break. Feel free to take a screenshot of it if you like it, or you can watch this recording and take a screenshot. So we really like this handout because often when we're stressed or we're going through a transition and we don't know what to do, there are 50 things on here, fun things to do. Go to a park is one, which is great when you're moving to Seattle because there's a lot of them. Put on some music and dance is listed there. Someone already said that. Write a quick poem. I don't know if we have any poets in the room. Turn off all electronics. Danielle was talking about sometimes with FOMO, you might need to reduce your social media usage. There's something on here about sitting in nature or meandering around town. Both of things you can do in Seattle very easily. Writing a letter is on here, which might be a little bit more old school, but you could write to a friend back home. So just think of like a little way that you could just kind of take a break through that stress to help you during that time. And then Danielle and I often talk to students about creating a wellness plan. So a lot of people want to make wellness a priority and don't know where to start. So you can make this now for the summer and then just tweak it as you come here. But when thinking about making this, this is something that is 100% unique to you. It's really whatever your needs are. You might make one for the summer, make a brand new one for your fall quarter, and then winter quarter, you need a new one, right? So it's something you can always change. It can be helpful just to look at these things in the wheel to help you get started, right? So we talked about social already, making social connections. What fuels you? Are you an introvert? Do you need time alone? Are you an extrovert? Do you need more time with people? Emotional wellness, about promoting good health by doing things that are pleasant for you, right? Things that support your well-being, whether that's listening to happy music or spending time with friends or an artistic endeavor. Intellectual wellness can be school. It can be going to classes. You want to learn some things. You want to do some work, right? And that can be very stimulating and helpful. Um, environmental wellness can be around the environment that either you're creating around you that feels really intentional and good for you. Environmental wellness could be contributing to our environment and helping our environment out. There are lots of opportunities to do that at SU regarding sustainability. Physical wellness can just be moving. Moving can be the gym, moving can be dancing in your room, moving can be going for a walk. Occupational wellness could be around jobs, either a job that you have now or thinking about jobs you want later. And spiritual wellness can mean different things for different people, but whatever that means for you. And kind of for some people, that's a big part of what helps them get through tough times. And so making sure you have room for that in your plan. So this is just a place to start. And you don't, and a lot of times if you're addressing the social piece, like let's say you make a new friend, right? Well, that may help your social wellness, your emotional wellness, your environmental wellness, and your physical wellness because you go for walks together, right? So one thing can kind of address all parts of the plan. So just something to think about. Danielle, anything you'd add to the plan, or does that sound pretty good?
I don't think so. I think just thinking about like one thing can serve multiple different purposes, like Amy was mentioning. And I think you gave some great examples.
Okay. Mindfulness is something you may have heard about. So mindfulness is about being able to be in the present moment. So there's a definition here on the slide that I like. Mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. So that could mean paying attention to this presentation right now and listening to our words and taking it in. It could mean when you eat dinner tonight, really paying attention to what you're eating. Or it could mean listening to a meditation and listen to an actual guided meditation where you focus on your breath. There's a practice here that's on the slide called 5-4-3-2-1 that Danielle and I talk about with a lot of students. It's a way to pause and be in the present, especially if you're feeling stressed. The practice is to name 5 things that you can see. So you could all do it right now, silently. So if you name 5 things you can see, I can talk about what I see right now. I see a lamp. I see a water fountain for my cat. I see a water bottle. 4 things that you can hear. 3 things that you can touch or feel. 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. I just made that order up. It's really just using your 5 senses, right? So name some things you can see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. And that just really helps ground us in the present moment. There have been so many studies on practicing mindfulness. One of them with college students found that those college students who actually practiced mindfulness, which means intentionally bringing themselves back into the present moment on purpose with frequency, had lower levels of stress and used more effective coping strategies. So there are a ton of studies on mindfulness. We could give a presentation on it, but just something to think about that will help, that could potentially help with the transition.
And another thing that can really help with the transition is figuring out how to cultivate what we call self-compassion. And I probably self-compassion is one of my favorite things to talk about with students. We hear from a lot of students that being kind to themselves is a really challenging thing. They might have that ability to be kind to others and to be patient and understanding, but when it comes to themselves and their own pain and failure, they often can be critical, or just really hard on themselves, and that can be really distressing. And so, kind of thinking about how do you respond to your own pain and failure? And so, one of the ways of being self compassionate is to be self validating through this practice. And so, I often encourage people who are interested in self compassion to ask themselves, like, how would I respond to a friend that was experiencing something similar to what I'm experiencing right now? How can I show myself the same compassion that I show others? And so, at its foundation, self compassion is really the quality of being an encouraging friend to yourself, regardless of the circumstance. So, really, especially in times of pain or failure, but no matter what's going on, just being able to be encouraging and kind and validating of your experience. As Amy mentioned and talked about mindfulness, that is one of the components of self compassion. So, paying attention to the present moment without judgment. The second component of self compassion is common humanity. So, really recognizing and remembering that pain and suffering is part of the human experience and you're not alone in it. Often, when we're experiencing pain and suffering, we might feel very isolated or like I'm the only one. And trying to remind myself, I do this too, but yourself of the fact that everybody experiences hardship can sometimes help us feel less alone. And then the last component of self compassion is self kindness. And so relating to yourself in a kind and understanding and validating manner. And so really thinking about like, how can I be a friend to myself versus being maybe an adversary or a critic? And if self compassion is something you're interested in, at CAPS, we do have a self compassion group. Hopefully, that will be returning as we transition from the pandemic. And there's just a lot of different resources out there that you can start checking out now if you're interested. And so, thinking about other resources, there's a lot of different mental health resources and wellness support resources that are available to you at SU. So, places like CAPS, wellness and health promotion, things like Timely Care is available to you. They have a 24/7 um, option called Talk Now that is available to people. It's 24/7 access to a mental health professional where you can just get support whenever you need it. And it is nice because sometimes things come up at 2 a.m. and you might feel like you don't have somebody to talk to. And so that could be a really great option for you. If you're interested in things like mindfulness or self compassion, things like Insight Timer can be really helpful. It can help you practice different meditations, breathing, just anything really you can think of. And it is free. And then you do also have access to a mental health support app called Sanvello, and it focuses on stress, anxiety, and depression, which are the top three things that people end up coming to CAPS for. Um, and there's just different exercises and modules and things that you can do at your own pace as a means of supporting your own wellness. Is there anything you'd add to that, Amy?
So for Samvello, if you sign up with your SU email,
Yeah.
so we just found out from Nick before we logged on that you all should have an SU email, or you should sign up for one. So once you have your SU email, you can sign up for Sanvello. And then if you use your SU email to sign up, you get the premium version for free. And then the Timely Care resource won't be accessible to you until you come to campus and you're an active student. Same with our resources, actually. So both CAPS and Timely Care are available to you once you're a registered student. So once you arrive here in the fall and register for classes. But then as Danielle was saying, Insight Timer is just free. It's just a wonderful free app to explore self-compassion and mindfulness. So yeah, so any questions for us, you can put them in the chat, Q&A, either place works for questions.
Well, if you end up having questions, or you're welcome to, you all probably know Nick at this point, you're welcome to contact him or his office. You're welcome to contact CAPS if you have any questions about our services. This, as we mentioned, recording will be available for you to revisit. If you have any questions about resources, you're welcome to check it out again. And if you still have more, you're welcome to get in contact with us as well.
Yeah. So thank you very much for attending our presentation. And yeah, feel free to reach out to Nick with any questions that you have. Thank you.
We look forward to welcoming you all in fall.
Yes, look forward to seeing you on the fall.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.